How's it going, everybody? My name is Carter Seneschal. This is Bobby Kalina and my friend Josh Schnepp. We're all roommates in Ironwood.
I heard Schnepp.
I'm sorry, Josh
as
Schnepp.
well.
Too many Joshes in my life. We are here with the second installment of the Ironwood Podcast. We're just going to talk about some mentally stimulating ideas, some stories maybe, just anything to keep the viewers happy. We are brought to you by Audible. It is a service that will provide you with audiobooks. Who likes to read books nowadays? You don't see anybody reading books. I personally, I like to feel the book, but Audible, if you don't like to feel the book, if you just can't, if you're an audio sensitive person, you like the audio, Audible's for you. You can use the code IWPodcast 30 for 3 free audiobooks. Again, that's IW Podcast 30 for 3 free audiobooks. Anyway, we're going to get along with our topics. Bobby had a couple on there. You would think he wanted to talk about some Disney. I feel like we kind of left him out a little bit. I was talking about some physics last time, and I feel like I left you out. But this is your time to shine, Bobby.
It's my time.
Also, I'm a little brain dead, so I don't have a lot to contribute yet.
So yeah, I went to Disney this weekend. And it's pretty fun. Have you guys ever gone for the Halloween party?
I haven't, no, but it sounds awesome.
Have you gone, Josh?
I think I have.
When did you go? Was it?
It would have been a couple years ago, like in high school, sophomore year.
High school. Okay. So like, I don't know if they still do it the same way, but basically at 7 o'clock, is it 7 or 8 o'clock? I think it's 7 o'clock. They kick you. You buy a special ticket, and they kick everyone else out of the park, and they limit how many of those tickets there are. So basically, you can walk onto a ride, and we got just about every single ride done in about 2 hours.
Dang.
Just like running back and forth, and it was a ton of fun.
What was with you?
It was me, my brother, my middle brother, my oldest brother, his wife, his 4 kids. Yeah, he's only 30 and he has 4 kids. Don't take notes from him. And my mom and my dad.
Already did.
Ooh, that's a question. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We my brother drove up Thursday with the kids, and we met him there on Friday. We left at like 6. We were gonna leave at 6 in the morning, but you know how that goes. We ended up leaving. Oh, and my aunt went too. I forgot about that. My aunt went as well. Can't forget Nancy. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We left around 7 in the morning. Got to our hotel at 2. The hotel messed up. Didn't have our rooms ready. And that was a lot of fun, especially because my dad is he travels a lot for work, so he gets a lot of hotel points, and he spent 1,500 nights at Marriott, so they've made him a Platinum Elite member for life, and he's used to people doing anything and everything for him, and they didn't have the rooms ready, and he was not happy, and it was probably the worst hotel experience I've ever had, to be completely honest. They like the parking lot. They parked cars in front of the spots because the lot wasn't big enough for how many spots, like for the amount of rooms they had. The lot was too small, so they would you'd be parked in a spot and they'd park a car like perpendicular to your car, so you couldn't leave.
Nice.
Which is
Was it valet?
The valet did park in front of you, so you could self park or you could valet for free, but you have to tip the valet guy. I mean, so it's really not free.
Yeah.
Well, it's free, but it's $20 a day to park there. So it was $20 a day to get parked in front of.
Bobby problems are funny problems.
They really are. Sometimes you just want to drive and go get Panda. Isn't that right?
Yeah. All right, Jadala. What about you? What's new with you?
Yeah, how was your weekend?
Let's see, it was good, boys. Worked quite a bit. I feel like I'm always working, but it's a lot of fun. I really like working. But it was good to go to Uru, see what that's all about. You know, get to feel the vibe. So for those of you who don't know what Uru is, it's the CrossFit gym that Carter has graciously introduced Bobby and I to, the sport CrossFit. And it's really cool. It's a really cool community. So if you are interested, definitely look into it and consider joining because it's a lot of fun. But so I went to Uru. I have some big plans for the car too, for Captain fell.
Oh, you talked
Speaking
to me
of
about
which,
this.
yeah.
Switched out my headlights this weekend.
Did you?
Papa, yes.
Did you get real good ones?
Better ones. They're still, they're not halogen lights.
Are they halogens or are they LEDs?
They're no, they're not even
They're incandescent.
incandescent. Yeah. And or all Jeeps, I don't know if all Jeeps like this, but they're the what are they, like the full bulb.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like little bulbs in the casing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
yours? Is
Mine's a halogen. It's just a
yours is?
yeah. See, but the
I need
halogens
that, dude.
are
Mine
yellow.
are so dim.
They're still yellow, and I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I end up turning on my like when I'm on a dark road, like if I drive to go see my parents, because there's no like street lights, so it's like pitch black. I'll turn on my windshield lights and my fog lights that are just windshield lights I put in where my fog lights go. It was a little bit of cheating, but
Is it like on your Jeep? Is it you have to replace the entire like lens basically?
Yeah. No.
Like the entire casing too.
Yeah. So the whole casing is light basically.
Yeah,
Did you have to
that's
take
how it is
your-
in the Autos.
did you have to take off your front grill?
No. Did you?
If you replace them on my model, it's hard not to break anything without taking the grill off.
True.
So
Taking
Captain
panels off is difficult.
It is.
All right, boys. It's time to. You guys thought this was gonna be a boring podcast? No. We're just getting warmed up. That was the intro. We're getting to start the stuff that gets the heart pumping. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Love.
You guys know what I'm talking about. Nuclear transmutation.
Oh.
Okay. So, there were. This was a hot topic. I mean, it still is a hot topic. But I'm gonna say the mid 50s. By the way, everything you're about to hear, we're gonna call this Carter's half-baked explanation of physics corner. Good flow to that. We're gonna go with that. All right. So anyway, nuclear transmutation. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 1950s, people were questioning where the heavier elements in the universe come from. We're talking about stuff low on the periodic table. Low. We're talking about uranium, so-and-so, other heavy elements I cannot name because I am not good at this.
Newtonium.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
one of
californium.
Yep.
That was actually created in
That's yeah.
that one's created in the lab, and that is a real one actually.
Yes.
Well,
it's
it's it was created in the lab, so is it
It's
really
true.
real?
It is real.
It's not naturally-
It's not
existed-
natural. That's it's not.
It's not natural. Yes, not
That's
naturally
what I meant.
occurring. There are a lot of things that are on this earth nowadays that are not naturally occurring. For instance, did you guys know that helium is not a naturally occurring gas in Earth? I also want to say neither is silicone, but I'm not going to say that because I'm not sure. Also,
I think silicone would be.
it's-
I don't think it's.
Don't you
natural
take
on Earth.
sand and bake it?
I'm saying natural element.
Yeah, I don't
that
think
would still be
silicone
great.
would
I don't
be
know.
natural.
I'm not sure about that. So
Let's-
this
let's
is
Google
card
this.
is half baked
Yeah.
science.
But
If you
helium
want to call it
makes
that.
sense.
That's something. Anyway, nuclear transmutation. They're wondering where do the heavier elements in the universe come from? So I can't remember the guy's name, but this guy started to theorize that at the core of stars, these heavier elements are eventually being created, and it's not actually. It's a long process. I'm trying to think of how to navigate you, the viewer, through this. So, let's start at the beginning. The beginning is always a good place to start. So, first off, of course, there are other stars or stars in the galaxy that vary in size, right? You can have
Very true.
you can have small stars. You can have big stars. You can have hot stars. You can have cold stars, and you need to have the right one to make the heavier elements in the universe.
For reference, our sun is not very big.
It's not very big, and it's also not very hot. I think that
Yeah.
ours is considered I want to say yellow. It's called a yellow star,
Yeah,
and it's
I believe
kind
it's
of
yellow.
medium to low heat.
So
Anyway,
nothing special.
so the criteria needed to start the transmutation of the heavier elements is you need a large star, so something that would expand probably just about to the outer regions of our solar system, and it also has to be medium to less hot. So something like what our star is, so like a yellow star, even a red star, which is a not hot star. Anyway, so how these stars are held in shape, and because what stars are doing is they're constantly radiating energy, because at their core there are electrons that are flying around and they're bumping into each other, and they can't make pairs because an electron negative will not make a pair. You need a negative and a positive. So positive is of course a proton. Anyway, so at the core of these stars is, at first it's going to be hydrogen, the most base element. After, I'm glad to see this one viewer right now, because I'm probably getting a lot of this wrong.
It's us.
Good. That's okay.
And
So
anyway,
anyway,
you're watching us on YouTube, of course.
Anyway, so hydrogen is at the center, and there are electrons. Hydrogen is of course in its atomic state is H2. In its ionized state is H1. So it can't essentially be an atom or an element at H1 because it doesn't have that 2-to-1 ratio, right? Of nucleus to proton, or to electrons rather.
Yeah.
Anyway, so H2. There are all these electrons and protons floating around in the core of a star. So eventually these electrons are going to pair together and pair with a proton, and that creates H2. But while they're doing that, there's also electrons and neutrinos and all this other kind of radiation going out from the stars and radiating. For instance, it's what would give us sunlight from our star. So we're getting radiated, and the radiation actually is what's pushing the gravity of the star from collapsing in on it. Anyway, back to the center, or the core of the star. So there are all these electrons and protons. They're meeting. 2 electrons to 1 proton, and I think it's another 1 proton and maybe 2 neutrons for H2. Again, it's probably wrong. I'm not so solid in science here. Anyway, creates H2. Eventually, all of the protons and electrons get paired so that all of the core is hydrogen. Once the whole core is hydrogen, it's not radiating electrons anymore because they've all found their pair. So the gravity collapses to a point where, so as the gravity is collapsing because it's not radiating anymore, it's heating up because under the friction of having more gravity, and the hydrogen atoms are bouncing off each other and hitting each other until they get hot enough that it breaks off again. The electrons and the protons separate from each other because it got so hot. Because only at a certain heat can certain elements be developed. So now the core is burning at a hotter heat, which allows for the next element, which it's gonna basically. So we have H2, right? Our next element's gonna have to have 4 electrons. So what has 4 electrons? I believe it's carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon?
Yes.
That's right.
Carbon.
So these H2 atoms with their 2 free electrons are floating around still in pairs, and eventually they're gonna connect with each other, make a 4 electron atom, which is carbon, like we stated. So that keeps on happening, that keeps on happening until the full core, or the core, is fully carbon. And after that, of course it's not radiating anymore with the carbon core not giving off any more electrons. So then it collapses until it gets hot again, and then of course it's hot enough that you can make H4 plus four electrons plus 4 electrons, I think, equals oxygen, because oxygen is O8. It has 8 electrons. So anyway, so now it has an oxygen core, and the same process of radiating and then creating a fully elemental core, collapsing, then getting hot enough to create the next element, continues until you hit iron. Now what's interesting about iron is it is a non-radiatable element. So once you get past iron, and the full core of the sun is iron, and the gravity collapses on it, it keeps on getting hotter and hotter and hotter, hot enough to create these other elements, but none of these elements past iron can radiate.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets it gets so hot that it's going to create all these heavier metals that it eventually explodes into a supernova. If you've ever heard that term, supernova is basically just a sun spilling its guts everywhere. So basically, collapses on itself, explodes, and spews all these heavier elements ever in the universe. That was very rough. I know. I was trying to pull it all together as I was saying it. But did you get it a little bit?
Doesn't that make a black hole when a sun dies?
There are a couple options for
Theoretically.
when a sun dies. Is it can create a singularity or it can create a supernova. And there's I think that there has to be some certain criteria for it to create a black hole. I believe,
of course, because we don't really know for sure.
well, yeah, I mean everything. Essentially, one can argue everything in science is theoretical, but it's pretty common knowledge in the scientific community that black holes are created from collapsed stars. For a black hole to be created, I believe it has to become a dead star. So remember at the beginning when I said that? Yeah. So remember at the beginning I said that there needs to be certain criteria for a sun to become a supernova at the end. It's the same thing for black holes. It needs to be a certain size, a certain heat, so it needs to die a certain way. So like I said at the beginning, it has to have a certain size, to have a certain gravity to collapse on itself, to make it hotter and hotter and hotter until it can eventually transmutate to iron and then collapse on itself, make supernova. If it's too small, then it won't have enough gravity to collapse and get itself hot enough to transmute that next element. Other than that, black holes is a very touchy subject. I can't remember the criteria that is needed to do that. I want to say that it needs to be a white dwarf, which is a super hot, small star.
Because the heat has a lot of energy. Because heat and energy kind of go hand in hand, and that's but that energy has to go somewhere, and that's when it creates a black hole. When it
a black hole is basically a super massive, but concentrated object.
Yeah, it's like
So that it's gravitational.
Next week we'll talk about
which gravity is waves.
Right. So you think of a black hole, and you think it must be eternal, it must always be sucking in stuff. That's actually not true. Black holes can decay. Mm-hmm. They can, over a period of time, via the spontaneous and chaotic, what's the word I'm thinking of? Creation of particles in the universe across what's called the event horizon. So there's always
it's like interstellar.
There's essentially always electrons and anti-electrons being created. Anti-electrons are the dark matter equivalent of an electron. It's essentially just an electron with a positive charge. So they're always being created and canceling each other out in the universe. I'm sorry, positrons is the word for it. So there is positive charged electrons and negative charged electrons are being created, canceling each other out. So the question arises: what would happen if a positron was created on one side of a black hole's event horizon, and a electron was created on the other? They wouldn't be able to cancel